Hello and welcome. In the Money Players Podcast, In the Money Media, YouTube channel PTF, back with you to talk about Keeneland on Saturday with a man who does a fabulous job writing for us. His byline is one of the most frequently clicked upon over on inthemoneypodcast.com, and with good reason. He gives you a lot of winners and he gives you great analysis. It's all free. Check it out, inthemoneypodcast.com. The man of whom I speak is Eric Solomon. How are things, my friend?
I'm doing great, Peter. How are you?
Things are good. Baseball season's back. That means you're out there at the stadium on City Island in Harrisburg. You've been staying warm?
It is. It was the first night was really windy, and now it just kind of keeps getting a little bit warmer. I think the weekend's going to be good. Team's doing great, 6-0 to start. So
I highly recommend a visit. It is a destination park. Lots of great beer, very charming atmosphere, high-level baseball, and you got to go see Eric at the spot and get something fantastic to eat as well when you're there. I'm dying to go back. I remember we were there. It was right before the Preakness a couple of years ago, and a game. It was maybe the only game I've ever been to that was just a 5-inning game. The rain came in. But, given the craziness of the week, I got what I needed to. I got what I needed out of the experience.
You saw it all.
Dylan Cruz was playing there.
And that's right, yeah.
Back in the minors now, but not for long. Anyway, well, that's a little tangent about minor league baseball. Let's talk about Keeneland on Saturday. We're going to start off with this turf allowance race going a mile. How do you want to light this candle, my friend?
I think this one's pretty chalky. I think the Chad Brown and the Todd Pletcher horse are clearly the two to beat. I really like the last race from Arkhipov, the 6 for Chad Brown. You just kind of looked like a horse that just kind of put it all together at Tampa last time out. I just was kind of tucked in behind horses. Samuel Marin was riding that day and kind of made that strong middle move to kind of advance into third there, and then was on hold for a little bit, and then came and rebroke, just accelerated, pulled away like a really nice horse. So I don't know how much he beat that day, but I think this horse is going to be the one to beat. Noble Confessor is pretty logical here as well, running in a lot of good races. Second in the Jockey Club Derby. Hill Prince has that first start off the layoff. Wasn't a great race. Gulfstream course was wicked fast, so might just be draw a line through that, and I think we'll see a better version of him in this spot today. So those are the two. Maybe a deeper saver. You could talk me into Love 'em or Liam getting on the turf for the second time. I think had some excuses in that one turf race. Looked pretty good on the synthetic at Gulfstream last time out, but I'm going to be mostly 6 and 7.
6, 7, a little bit the 2 for Eric. I definitely get Arkhipov and had as my top pick in this spot. Just looks to be the best closer in a race where I thought there was enough pace to bring that late speed into play. And I also like that Arkhipov moved into what I thought was the fastest part of the race last time. But I'll mention a couple others. The 3 Sicilian Defense, I thought was another who might get a race run to suit if it's fast up front. If you ignore that last run, which did come ahead of a layoff, this horse has some numbers that are not too far behind. My B runner I wanted to mention too was Ciro Di Marzio, the 4, who I thought could get a good stalk and pounce trip in this spot, maybe prove the best of speed. Not one that I particularly trust, but one I wouldn't mind having on side in some combos. So we're both with Arkhipov, some different ideas underneath. 3 and 4 for me, 7 and 2 for Eric. Let's get to race number 8, where we've got a 7-furlong maiden for these 3-year-old fillies on the dirt. I put number 3, Right Timing, right on top. Bet hard for the debut. And while that race has not produced any winners, all 4 that have come to run back have improved their figures. And I thought the horse finished up okay on the clock. There's added ground here. Based on the way the horse finished, maybe not any kind of issue. The 5, She's Our 10, I also thought had a promising debut. Broke poorly, but was sticking on okay late in the manner of one who should continue to improve, especially second out. That race has also produced a next out winner. And then as a more of a B type here, I had the 12 Al Gadir. That was a very live race in the maiden, 3 next out winners. And looking at the pedigree, I thought that Al Gadir could be more of a 2-turn type. One that I don't mind having in this 7-furlong spot as more of a backup and underneath play, but also the kind of horse I'm going to probably put in a note as long as Al Gadir, as long as she shows any ability in this spot, one I might stable mail and look for at slightly longer distances. So I'm 3-5-12. Eric, you with me or against me?
I'm with you. I'm going to be more of a backup with the Chad Brown horse, but I like the 12 a lot, Al Gadir. And kind of said a lot of the things that I was thinking. It's a full sister to a grade 3 winner. 63 caliber was a nice horse there. So and Barn does a nice job with horses off the layoff, second time starters. I think this one makes sense with that outside trip here. She's Our 10 was another one that I'm going to be using in this spot. Just again, a lot of same things. Fairgrounds horses doing really well here. I think seven winners and 30 some races now, 38 races. So, and really 35 because all the 2-year-olds are first time starters. So, it's definitely kind of been a good winner down there, and those horses are coming back and running good races here. So, and again, it was hurted a little bit at the start, just kind of was slow to get going, way wide in the track, but I think it could be a more professional race here. I don't want to throw in a first time starter, the 10 horse La Rascasi, an authentic first time starter. Authentic, not great with first time starters on dirt sprints. Dam was a debut winner. Grand Dam was Merrifield winner of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Yep. Like the works. I think this horse could be well meant for a barn that William Walden really kind of having a breakout year so far. Does a really nice job with first time starters. I think this horse could be a little sneaky in this spot.
So I wrote down 12, 5, and 10, but you mentioned in passing the Chad Brown runner, the 3 right timing. Is that one in your picks? How do you?
I see him more as a backup, and her as more of a backup in this spot. Just kind of a theme. I just think I'm going to be fading some of the Chad Brown horses here. He's not had a great meet. Probably should have won that race, and I get probably moving forward here. I just think there's a much deeper field than what you saw at Tampa.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure I got these numbers right for the notes we'll send around to In the Money Plus. Should point out to folks that if you sign up for In the Money Plus now, you'll get our whole Kentucky Derby package, and it's really special this year. We've got a lot of things people have come to rely on, our proprietary figures and trip notes. We've got the grid picks from the team, analyses of every horse. We're also going to have workout analyses for the first time. Our buddy Chris Couples going to be putting those together. It's well worth the price. Go to inthemoneypodcast.com/plus to check that out. Let's move on to the featured race of the day, the grade 1 Jenny Wiley, the hinge of this late pick 5. Eric, we'll keep it with you.
This was a pretty tough race, I thought. And, I kind of making the play that I'm going to fade both of the Brown horses. I think Sagesta seems to be a horse that does a little bit better with once she's been running. And so I think that you might need this race. Dynamic Pricing seems to run her best races when there's a little more give in the ground and should be pretty dry. So I'm going to try and, maybe at peril, but leave both of them out. I like Brendan Walsh. I think Brendan Walsh has a great hand in this race. And I like Expensive Queen, the little longer price of his 2 horses, as a little bit of an upset here. This is a horse that I kind of stable mailed last year when she won here at Keeneland in April. And, just felt like it took forever for her to find a seam and kind of get out, finally tipped out to the outside and just exploded down the stretch. Passed a pretty nice horse that mystifying in that race, who was the heavy favorite. The Gamely felt like a big ask. A month later, shipping across country after that, going into grade 1 competition. Be Your Best was just really good in that race. Just kind of threw down the gauntlet from the get go. And then when she went to the sidelines, it's been more of a conservative approach this year, but it kind of seems like everything's kind of like pointing up to this race for this horse. The Tapeta race at Gulfstream, really liked the Fairgrounds race last time where she just kind of inhaled the field. I do get that the Lasix, she was on Lasix for her 3 wins in this country, so that's going to be a question mark here. But it's kind of a middle price horse. I'm willing to roll the dice there with that one. The other Walsh horse, Lush Lips, I think is definitely a definite must use. Just very consistent 3-year-old. She came back and didn't miss a beat when she won her last start out, picked up right where she left off. She won the grade 1 QE2 Cup on this course. I think she's going to be right there at the end. Then maybe a price here on the Deep Satin, the 6 horse for Cherie DeVoe. This horse won the De La Rose last year. Boston Spa, I thought it was a really good race. It just wasn't the best trip, but I thought she ran really well there. And then she was just wide throughout. She snuck into the First Lady, came off the AE list here in the fall. She was probably the best horse in that race, but just covered a ton of ground in that spot. Didn't love, obviously the Del Mar trip didn't work out, but this is her first start up the layoff. DeVoe's another one who, has these races kind of picked out. So I think this was a nice horse at a price in this race.
Yeah, some good ideas. I like Deep Satin as well. 176 for you. I was not as bold as you. I did put Suggesta on top. Just, looks like the fastest horse to me in terms of the body of work. Has that good grade 1 form. And I thought could get a really good trip in here despite the outside draw. Maybe getting first run on Aussie Girl, who seems like will be the speed, and maybe getting enough of a jump on those deeper closers. But I certainly respect your idea of being against, and will be, I think, a fairly sizable chalk. I had Deep Satin as my co-A. I'm guessing this has been the plan for a while for this one, and has some form from last year that I think fits. Even though just a listed winner, I don't think the class issue is going to be any kind of huge problem for Deep Satin. 10-6 on the A line. I was going to back up with dynamic pricing and Lush Lips. I got to take a longer look at Expensive Queen, who I kind of liked. I did not want to go 5 deep, so I cut it 10-6 A line, 5-7 B line. But an interesting race where there's a lot of ways you can go. I actually did a full horse by horse write-up of this one, which you can find over at atheraces.com, or we'll send it around in our free In the Money Media newsletter. No reason not to sign up for that. inthemoneypodcast.com/email. The secondary feature on the day is the final Kentucky Derby points race of the season, the grade 3 Lexington for these 3-year-olds. I came up with the 10 Confessional as my selection. Just so many arrows pointing in this direction. Cox holds such a strong hand here between this one and the 9 Ezum. I didn't have a lot of clever things to say about either one of them. I just thought they would both run pretty well. I did want to take a look at the 1 Corona de Oro as one who I thought had an opportunity to maybe get involved or even pull the upset, had that good maiden win at Keeneland. That was a live race at Fairgrounds, 2 back, bullet work at Churchill since the last race, and Dallas Stewart known for teaching these young horses to finish, and this one has natural tactical speed. So that was the closest thing I had to an interesting idea in this race. Not sure how interesting it is, but I went 10-9-1 in this spot. Where did you land?
It's going to be all about Corona de Oro for me.
Great.
A lot of what you said. I really like those 2 races down at the Fairgrounds. So that 6 furlong sprint, that's a really good race. So those were both those horses kind of sandwiched in between, came back and faced each other and ran really well in allowance company last time. And then goes to 2 turns and handles that quite easily there. I just think that between him breaking the maiden and Ezum didn't beat anybody at Colonial. It was not a great race. And it was a huge effort. I certainly get it. And that's, I don't know, the Colonial form is just weird. Just that it was three days. And I think this horse is going to get pounded at the windows. And I think I'm going to be just completely against that one. Confessional's probably where I'll back up. This is kind of, I really like this one in the Sam Davis, and I didn't like that effort at all. Really, thought the Virginia Derby was a great spot for him. Didn't really run that great. Not sure this horse wants 2 turns. I'm not sure what this horse wants to do, but I just, and maybe it's just I've gone to the well with him twice and, kind of left empty-handed, and, now this will be the time he beats me, of course, but
I was going to give an excuse. I was going to give an excuse for the ride last time. That was one thing that I thought wasn't great, and I thought the switch to Irad, you'd see a little bit better. I would say, I definitely think Corona d'Oro is the interesting horse, but I think you can go back to the well with this one more time.
We'll see
if you're feeling brave, but hey, a lot of different ways to play it. So in the just one as a lone A and the 10 as a backup for you, or did you have any others you were?
I'm seeing it there. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's get to the nightcap, the race that will determine if we can hit this late pick 5 at Keeneland. Lots of good wagering possibilities at Keeneland's meet, including this new late pick 3 with the high minimum lower takeout on races 9, 10, and 11. This will also pay off the all turf pick 3 that Keeneland were really the inventor of before it took off everywhere. So a very important race, this maiden for the 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th. When it comes to all these late picks, Eric, how are we going to get paid?
I'm going to go with the 6, West End Kid. I thought that was a really good debut. Broke well. Just kind of, there was a full-on scrum for the lead. Just was kind of broke on top, but then settled back. Took this one just a little bit of time to get going. Johnny V was kind of pumping on this one a little bit, and it ended up kind of having to take up in the stretch. But once it got clear, finished strong, was galloped out in front. Johnny V's riding at Oaklawn today, going to be or for Saturday, going to be in the Apple Blossoms. So Tyler Gaffleone, perfectly capable replacement here. Slow start, but got off the schneid on Thursday with a win. I think Source makes a lot of sense in this race. And then I think the other logical player is Here's Johnny, the coming off of a tough break in the Breeders' Cup, breaking inside of all those horses. And, you just got to watch the race back. Broke okay, and then looked to the left. And I don't know if it just was kind of confused that nobody was to his left, and ended up in 14th early on, kind of followed the Stad there, rallied wide, got into 5th. But the form from that race is holding up. Stark contrast. Street Beast both came back and ran strong races. So I think this one, dropping back into Maiden Special Weight Company for first start of the year, pretty logical here. So those are the 2 I'm going to be kind of keyed in here to lock things up.
I had Here's Johnny as a backup, and the only reason I didn't have as a confident A is I was imagining this is a horse that could catch all manner of money, and I just thought there were maybe some interesting ways to go in here, but I certainly don't want to get beat by that one. I put Royal Guard on top, the 3-runner, who I just thought ran way better than it looked at Saratoga last summer. That was a slow pace in that spot, only beaten a length despite being 9th early, working steadily for the return to the races. Cox very good in the relevant categories, and you can just put plenty of improvement in there between a race in August as a 2-year-old and April of the 3-year-old year. Co-A was West End Kid. You already made the case, and this is one that, while may have benefited from a little bit of a setup first out, I just love the visual impression the horse made of one that was figuring it out along the way and has worked well since. One other I'll mention that I had as more of a B type was the 5, High Honors, a world in which this one gets loose on the lead and didn't really finish that badly going long in the past. I thought could be a price and could be worth inclusion. Yeah, 20-1 on the morning line. I don't hate the idea of having a 5 or 2 on my tickets. Great stuff, Eric. Look forward to talking to you again during this Keeneland meet, reading your coverage daily over at InTheMoneyPodcast.com. And thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Peter. Take it easy.
Thanks so much to Eric. Thanks out there to everybody for watching. Please, if you're watching on the YouTube side, subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. We're making that big push at Derby for 15,000 subs. I know a lot of you out there aren't subscribed. It's something you can do to help us out, and you'll also make sure you won't miss any of our YouTube exclusive content. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.